For two, and he's Paul outside, and teeing one up is Crowder. The three ball has been on the money tonight for the Suns. 18 threes. That threes, and the Phoenix Suns have gone on the road after missing the playoffs for 11 consecutive years.
And there it is, a very sad day for the great Lawton Luntz. Oh, I know it kills you to see the Lake. Oh, don't even. Listen, first off, welcome into a special edition of the Task Force NBA Playoff Roundtable. We're also going to talk about the very big news, especially locally here in Michigan, the Bo Schembechler situation. So we'll get into that a little later in the program. But Lon, obviously, a heavy NBA here, and we want to get right into it. But before we get into the semis, and we got two games tonight, we got a must-win for the Milwaukee Bucks, who I did pick in the – not that it was a big jump. I wasn't on a ledge or anything, but I picked the Bucks, Clippers winning the title. And I still could be right, I guess. But the Bucks have to win tonight. We also have Denver and the Suns – or I'm sorry, the Clippers the Clippers game is going to be later tonight as well. Game 2 in that series against the Jazz. So your Lake show, as you saw them unceremoniously dumped. I know Anthony Davis, you were like, hey, Willis Reed. I know he played like 5 minutes. It was completely ineffective. But I mentioned this to you as we walk over the great Lawton Luntz. Lakers #1 fan. He still wears Lakers underwear. Before the show, this was the first time in the history of the NBA that a 7 seed was favored over a 2 seed. Now, listen, LeBron, defending champs, even though the bubble isn't real. That's what some are saying. I'm not saying that. They were a minus $280 to minus $300 favorite as a 7 seed. There's never been a 7 seed in the history of the NBA playoffs since the 8 seed format that was a favorite over a 2 seed. I understand why, and obviously everyone's betting the Lakers because no one believes in the Suns. You know what I was telling you for a long time. Whether you guys were fully healthy or not, the Suns were the better team. They were going to win that series. I know you feel like you're playing with house money, and that's fine. I'm not going to jump on you for that. But you've got to be a little disappointed at the performance of LeBron and the team as a whole. They really went out with it. The Suns obviously couldn't miss, but they went out with a whimper. They didn't go out fighting.
Well, yeah, and you look at this problem started last year. So let's go back to the bubble real quick and evaluate what happened. You could guarantee that you were going to get a good game from LeBron James and Anthony Davis in the bubble. And then what happened last year? You had Rondo show up one night. Then you had Caruso show up another night. You never really had a solid 3 guys that you could count on for scoring. And then you'd have that kind of variable player, but you never knew who it was going to be. Well, it was good enough to win in the bubble last year. Well, you're coming into this year. Now you've got no third scorer. You've got LeBron, who obviously was slowed by that ankle injury. I mean, he barely had a first step. And then you had Anthony Davis, who, give him credit, he did try to come in, but I don't even think he should have been allowed. He could have had easily what happened to Kevin Durant a couple of years ago happen to him by coming in that game and injuring that groin even further. So I look at it at this point, say, hey, the Suns didn't get a fully healthy Lakers, but I do agree with you. They're red hot, and they've proven that even in this second round series against Denver. They're shooting. You're getting Mikal Bridges and Jay Crowder, and Chris Paul's playing at a very elite level, probably the best he has in his career. So absolutely give the Suns credit. I'm not going to take anything away from them. And I wasn't extremely upset like I would be in past years because I knew that, hey, the guys were injured and they need an offseason to heal.
Well, I tweeted this last night. Let's talk about a segue. Let's get right into the Jazz Clip series. And you look at what, obviously game 1 did go the way of I'm sorry, we're going to the wrong series here. Live television. We're going to go to the Suns series. The Suns and the Denver Nuggets, of course, did go the right way for the Nuggets in game #1. And I tweeted this last night, Lawton, and I understand that, having fun and kind of being a little crazy because, we got to have opinions these days. But it's one of these things where I said the Suns look like they're going to win a title. And I'm not – and, of course, I immediately got a Kevin Durant, GIF response. I get the Nets look great. I get you have other teams – even in the West, whether it's the Clippers, obviously, or the Utah Jazz. I mean, this is the point, though. When you look at this Suns-Denver series and the way that Phoenix has absolutely dominated from outside, from inside, they're playing against we knew Joker was going to be the MVP. one of the best metric players in recent NBA history. But there's Devin Booker right there. And you mentioned Bridges, and they've got the inside-outside game for Monty Williams, who I believe is the coach of the year, his team. Yes, things can change, and they still would have to play a possible Nets team in the finals or a Bucks team, or obviously let's not discount the Jazz or the Clippers either. But the way the Suns are playing right now, I wish I would have thrown a bet down at whatever it was, 15-1 or before the playoffs started to win it all, because they look like they can win it all right now. And there is no bubble. Teams are going to be playing on their home floor in Phoenix, which has been a bear to play for, the regular season and the playoffs. And I'm not trying to say I think the Suns are going to win it all right now, because I'm staying with my original pick from the preseason. I still am going Bucks Clippers. Clippers win it. But boy, do the Suns look like a team that can win it all.
The Suns look like a team of destiny, but let's unpack a little bit. Notice they're also playing a Denver team that's down Michael Porter Jr., that's down a Jamal Murray. And you need two things. Every team needs two things heading into the playoffs. Health,
Gatorade, lots of Gatorade,
and a little bit of luck, and you know it as well as I do. So they're very fortunate to be all healthy. They're getting contributions from all over the place. Like we said, Mikal Bridges has been is just emerging. DeAndre Ayton looks just incredible down in the paint. They're playing good. And I also I will say this about the Nuggets. I'm also in where I work. I don't like leadership that bangs on me, that points the finger. And I don't agree with what Michael Malone's doing, going into press conferences and saying, his team quit and kind of pointing the finger at them. It's not a strategy that I like to see for leadership at all.
Yeah, there's some that would say, and I've seen them say, and obviously, former pros or guys that comment on the game. I feel like Jalen Rose might have mentioned this, that Michael Malone is a detriment to the Denver Nuggets right now so far in the series. And yeah, you mentioned no Jamal Murray. He was a huge factor, and Porter is a huge factor. But this is still a Denver team that's looked great throughout the end of the regular season, looked great in their first round series win, and came into this series with the MVP and home court advantage. And not home court advantage, and the advantage of kind of being a team that, the Suns took down the champs. They were, feeling good about themselves, but they've been in the playoffs in a decade. Yeah. Unproven, a guy in Chris Paul that many will say can never close. You even mentioned that, like when I was giving you crap about your Lakers, like, oh, Chris Paul, he's the worst non-closer in history, or whatever you call them. So I've been very, very impressed with what so far you have seen against. I know they're missing some studs, but boy, this Suns team, if they keep shooting this way and playing at least reasonable defense, which they have against Denver, Denver would make some runs later in the third quarter in game 1 and 2, and the Suns never let them back in. They always, kind of clamped down when they needed to and kept that lead at 15-20, whatever it was, later in those two games. I just think if they're shooting the lights out, and if they keep shooting the lights out, who's going to stop them? Are the Clippers going to stop them? Are the Jazz going to stop them with a banged up? I know he's fine now, but he's still banged up, Donovan Mitchell. If they get, I know Danny Martin mentioned he has the Suns and the Sixers. I don't think the Sixers are getting past their series, which we'll get to in a little bit here. But who's going to stop them if they score 130 every game? Nobody. I don't think anybody.
Well, the Brooklyn Nets look like they could do that as well if they want.
And the Nets are a super team, so that doesn't work.
That'd be an interesting finals. But I will say this about the Nuggets. They need better leadership from their coaching staff. Michael Malone needs to support them. These guys are professionals. They know they're getting their butt kicked, and of course they're down a couple players, so they don't need their coach in public doing that to them. So, but again, credit the Suns again. And I will say this about Chris Paul. I've always knocked Chris Paul because it never seemed the one conference championship in his career, and he's gotten a lot of credit. He gets Hall of Fame credit all of the time. Statistically, I can appreciate his career achievements. But if he gets a ring this year, man, that is the bow on the present for him, because there will be really nothing else to dispute about his career.
Why you got to hate on Chris Paul so much? I mean, it's CP3, man. CP3.
I don't hate on him. I think it's that's misinterpreted. I respect his game. I mean, he's one of the best defensive point guards I've ever seen play. He's an all-star. I appreciate the fact that he's, the NBA Player Association president. Listen, Chris Paul's a good, and he's a two-time gold medalist, right? So, Chris Paul's a good player. It's just he's missing that part. He's also been on good teams as well. So it's not like he's been on all these crappy teams and not been able to close it all. So that's why I give him a little bit of crap. There is a very big narrative out there that this guy's, Hall of Fame guy. And I just, without the rings, it's hard for me to, or any appearance in a final, it's hard for me to really, really get on that narrative.
Well, you got to hit CP3. All right, so three quick things there. One, your pipe and drape looks amazing. Two, I love your Xfinity Mobile shirt.
Yes.
Congrats. Lawton just got a massive promotion. Unfortunately, he's moving away from me here. We're still going to do our, Hey That's Easy shows and Task Force shows. And Lawton, I wanted to break this other situation that I know has been officially broken by the station that we're going to be on, the group of stations we're going to be on. But this fall, via our great old friend, Rich Renko, who worked with me for a long time at 97 Won the Ticket, we're going to be calling the high school football game of the week in Livingston County. We're very excited about that every Friday night. And you'll be a part of it with me in the way that you've helped me be a part of it with you in other situations. And it's an honor to be able to work with you.
Never a dull moment in the world of broadcasting. We're always busy. We're always doing something, right?
Mike in LA is very mad. CP3, top 5 point guard all the time. Get out of here with that BS. All right, listen, save that for a second from now. We're going to get into the other Western Conference series, the Clips and the Utah Jazz. As I mentioned, I picked the Jazz. I picked the Clippers and the Bucks in the preseason and said the Clippers would win the title. And I was kind of on a ledge with the Clippers. The Bucks pick wasn't that crazy. And I'm sticking with it because, they got 4 teams left in each conference, so I'm not moving now. But, boy, I like the way the Suns are playing. And, the Brooklyn Nets are just really, really good. But before we get into that other Western Conference series, here's a message for our good friends at Screwball, a brand new ad by our boys and girls at Screwball.
Are you the bold and daring type? Call now. Looking for something exciting and new? Get screwed. We've been waiting. 1833 Screwed. Give me your best shot. Call now. 1833 Screwed. Screw responsibly.
Lord, people could see it, but during that the commercial was playing, you were actually calling that number 833 Screwed. So you're already on top of it. Very proud of you.
Oh, thanks.
Well, you listen. I do have the pick. I do have proof. This is you and your birthday, and that is Screwball.
Yeah.
That is, I believe, in Grand Rapids at a very famous bar with your Biggie shirt on. And you got, I think, is that a Jack and Coke backer and a Screwball shot?
Yeah, somebody bought me a Screwball shot. I'd never had one before. And I thought it was pretty good. I was like, oh, this is peanut butter whiskey. It's good stuff.
You're good stuff. By the way, you didn't look bad there, but boy, you have gotten in some great shape. I think the pipe and drape
I was probably 15 pounds heavier in that picture.
Yeah, but you don't look bad. I mean, listen, I've lost some weight too, but boy, are you doing. And I got to thank you again for many things in my life. And one of them is putting up with me. But, you and I are very close for a long time. Great text thread with our boys from the UFFL, which drives a lot of us nuts. And you got me on the juice thing with protein powder and fruit, and it's really helping. I've dropped, I think I'm up to 15 pounds now, and I want to lose about 30 more by the end of the summer. So thank you for that. I want to throw this up there. By the way, would you like to respond to Mike in LA about CP3? I told you hate the guy. You hate CP3.
I don't hate CP3. Like I said,
I know I was kidding.
Yeah. So I would just say to Mike, you might have heard of a guy named Steph Curry, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Oscar Robertson, Allen Iverson, Jason Kidd. All those guys have at least an appearance in a finals. I'm not saying Chris Paul is a bad player, but top 5, I definitely disagree. I
don't think he's top 5 either, but he's definitely better.
In front of any of them. I can't put him in front of Steph, Magic, Isaiah, Allen Iverson, one of the greatest scoring point guard of all time, Oscar Robertson. It's hard. It's hard to say that. Again, to each their own, but I don't know.
You want to hear, and obviously CB3 isn't part of this question, but you want to know one of my favorite trivia questions are MVPs, NBA MVPs that never won a title. And obviously Iverson's one of them. But you know who else has won? Derrick Rose. And he just got an MVP vote. And listen, it was a fan vote. It wasn't from a writer that was trying to screw with LeBron or someone else or Joker. And listen, Rose was incredible for the Knicks. I mean, he wasn't the MVP. He was a sixth man. That's what he was nominated for as well. But that was a fan vote, and people lost their mind on about every rose has its thorn.
Derrick Rose is one of those guys I think that everybody roots for. They want to see him come back. They remember before his injury how great he was. But man, I'm going to root for Derrick Rose. I rooted for him when he was here in Detroit.
I loved it when they signed him.
And I just love every minute that he has success. When he was the Timberwolves and he dropped 50. Again, like Derrick Rose is one of those guys I think that any true basketball fan can appreciate.
All right, let's throw up the brackets for those that are not caught up at this moment. And we're going to get into the other Western Conference series. But, you see the series we talked about, the Denver-Phoenix series. Phoenix up 2-0. It's going to be really tough for Denver to win the next, 4 of the next 5 games. I don't see that happening. So I think Phoenix will advance there. You see in the East, we'll get to the East series in a little bit here. Philly, Atlanta, that's a 1-1 series. Boy, did Philly have to win game 2. And obviously Embiid's going to be so big in that series. But Trae Young and those Hawks are just so impressive. And we got that big game tonight, game 3, a must-win for Milwaukee. They can't go down 3-0 to the Brooklyn Nets, who do look unstoppable as far as the East goes. But let's talk about this Jazz Clip joint series. The Clips down 1-0. They're playing again tonight. I actually threw a small bet on the Clippers money line. I think it was like plus 125 when I got it. It's like a 2.5-point, 3-point spread. I think it's to the zigzag theory. If people don't know what that means, Lawton, the zigzag theory in the NBA is a lot of times, especially when you get to like the conference semis and conference finals and NBA finals, the team that wins the first game in a series or wins whatever game it is, a lot of times the other team wins the next game. I mean, obviously there's different series that it doesn't apply to, but a series like this, to me, I think the zigzag theory is going to come into play. The Clippers are so good. And listen, the Jazz are an incredibly metrically high-level team when it's Donovan Mitchell and obviously when it's Rudy Gobert and the way that they're able to kind of be efficient offensively and play solid defense. Where are you at with this series? I think the Clippers win this tonight, but I think it's a total toss-up. I think it could go either way. It's probably going to go 7 games. I still obviously am picking the Clippers. I'm not going off my preseason pick, but this is going to be a really interesting series. And if the Clippers lose tonight, they're going to probably have to win both games in LA.
Well, listen, you can bet that Ty Lue's going to have some sort of defensive scheme tonight to get all over Donovan Mitchell. He's not going to allow him to score 45 points again. No. What I think is really interesting is when I watch, I'm a sports fan like you and everybody else watching the show. I watch all the sports shows. I was fascinated to listen, and no one mentioned the foul trouble that the Clippers were in. So if you remember, Kawhi picked up his 3rd foul right before halftime. Right after halftime, Reggie Jackson, former Piston, who was out there hitting threes and really giving them a boost offensively, got his 4th foul right away. And they kind of sort of lost their way. I mean, they had a 13-point lead going into halftime and just kind of blew it. And so I don't anticipate that they do that again tonight. Again, Mike Conley's going to be out again. So if there's a time to do it, the Clippers have to get this game before they go back to Staples Center on Saturday.
I completely agree with you, and I feel like they're going to get it. So I think Kawhi, and that's a great point by you on the foul situation, that a lot of people didn't really, kind of pay attention to, or some didn't. And I just think the Clippers get it done, and I think Kawhi has a huge game. I think you get a lot of stuff from the role guys, maybe even a Luke Kennard off the bench. And, this Utah team, when they're on, man, they are like the Suns have been. You can't beat them. Mitchell just goes off. You've got Gobert in the middle. You've got, they're very well coached. And we'll see what happens tonight in game number 2. But this is going to be a very interesting series. I think of all the series left, this probably has the best chance of going 7 games if one of those series do. Before we get into the East, Lawton, I did want to throw up Rob Chapman-6's comment. Of the teams left, who is the biggest surprise? And while we do that, I'll throw up the bracket again. You know what, Lawton? I'll start with this. When you look at the 8 teams left, I think it's Atlanta. Now, when I say Atlanta, and it's not just because obviously they're the 5 seed, the way they're playing right now, they're not a surprise at all. But I really thought the Knicks, with all that momentum and just their best team in such a long time, and the way Thibodeau was coaching them and the Garden, I really thought they were going to win that series. But you saw Atlanta steal game number 1, and they really never looked back. The Knicks barely got that 1 win in the series and had a chance late in game number 5 and really couldn't get anything done there. They're definitely the biggest surprise to me. I mean, I know that some would say it's Phoenix too, because They were, this big underdog as a 2 seed against your Lakers. But I picked the Suns going way back to when the playoff brackets were set, when the Lakers finally got into that 7th spot after the play-in round. But for me, I would say it's obviously the Atlanta Hawks. I know they're the lowest seed left, but it's not because of that. It's because I really thought the Knicks were going to win that series.
Yeah, that's a great question, by the way, Rob. That's I would say the Hawks too. I think the Suns get overlooked because they're that West Coast team that doesn't get a lot of airplay, and we don't see them a lot. And now that they are playing at an elite level, and you're seeing that Devin Booker's out here scoring 47 points, and some of those guys look like they just never miss. Jay Crowder, they've been fun to watch. But I would wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Atlanta. Definitely. Trae Young going into Philly, not after knocking off the Knicks and getting that game 1 victory. That was impressive.
Yeah, stop making fun of Trae Young's bald spot, by the way. I mean, who gives a hell? The guy's a great player. Enough of that. It was. I will say it was.
It's just his hair. He's a wild and crazy guy.
He's a wild and crazy guy. All right, let's go over to the East, LL, and let's start with the very interesting. Speaking of the Atlanta Hawks, we'll start with this series. The Hawks and the Sixers, and of course, we're tied now at a game apiece after a big, nice comeback win in game number 2 after the Hawks kind of owned the Sixers. I know the Sixers came back at the end of game 1, but at one point, I believe it was a 20-point spread. Trae Young has gone off in both games, but Embiid was phenomenal in game number 2. Listen, if Embiid stays healthy, the Sixers are going to win this series. I'm going to say that right now. But boy, is Atlanta fun to watch. Speaking of well coached, what a job has been done in Atlanta this year. And I'll tell you this, that's going to be – I guess, you know what? I said that the best chance of a series going 7 was that Clippers series. I think this has a chance of going 7 as well. Not as much as the Clippers Jazz series, but I think that this series could really be exciting down the stretch.
Yeah, I think the Sixers get this done in 6 again all year long. I thought the Sixers were going to go to the finals, and I thought they would give the Lakers the biggest problem. Those were my 2 picks for the finals. So I still think they got a really good chance. They're gonna run into an absolute locomotive with the Nets, though, because watching them play even without Harden, they are clicking on all cylinders. So, but anyway, the 76ers, yes, if Embiid stays healthy, I think they'll be just fine.
Yep, we got a big game coming up in that series. Game 3 is tomorrow night on ESPN. It's the early game, and then the Nuggets and Sixers will be the late game. Both those games on ESPN. All right, let's get into the final Eastern series. The Brooklyn Nets, boy, have they been just incredible so far against Milwaukee. We got game 3 coming up in just a bit. Before we do that, though, another word from our good friends at Screwball.
Are you the bold and daring type? Call now. Looking for something exciting and new? Get screwed. We've been waiting. 1833 Screwed. Give me your best shot. Call now. 1833 Screwed. Screw responsibly.
Yes, always screw responsibly. All right, let's get into this Bucks and Brooklyn series. And boy, there's the Blake squats. By the way, everyone has just been trolling from Detroit and NBA fans alike. Blake dunking all the time with the Nets, and it seemed like he had dunked in Detroit in 2 years. But listen, I'm happy for him. It wasn't his fault that Stan Van Gundy had one of the worst trades in the history of the NBA. I was actually talking to Dwayne Casey about that. It's funny. He's the one of the coaches of my nephew's t-ball team, Little League team. His son Zach is on the squad, and we were talking about the bare cupboard he was left with because of all the money tied up in Drummond and Reggie Jackson, and then obviously the Blake deal. But boy, the Pistons. I mean, it's a whole other discussion. We'll save for another show. With Isaiah Stewart, Sidney Bay, that team with Troy Dreamweaver as the GM, cleaning things up, and the money from Blake coming off. Boy, there could be some exciting Motor City basketball coming up soon again, which I know even you being a Lakers fan, you still love the Pistons. You have season tickets to the Pistons. I still believe the only reason you have season tickets to the Pistons is to see the Lakers-Pistons game. No, I'm kidding. But you're a Detroit guy. I mean, I know you love the Lakers since you were a kid, but the sky is bright for that Pistons team if things keep going their way.
Yeah, they're young. They play hard. Jeremy Grant was a great addition to that team from last year in free agency. That was a huge home run for Troy Weaver. And I think if they're able to get some luck in the draft, possibly obtain another free agent. I don't know who that would be at this time, but they just need a little bit more. I think they're still a couple of years away, but it was inspiring. I went to one game this season. I was invited to, there was only 250 fans. It was kind of weird being there, but they played the 76ers, and 76ers ended up winning by, I think it was like 8 or 10, and they played the 76ers extremely hard. And a lot of these guys, I mean, if you're not familiar with the Detroit Pistons, you don't know who these guys are. It's kind of like the movie Major League. Like, who are these guys, right? Sadiq Bey and some of these guys that just haven't really made a name for themselves yet out there playing hard. Shout out to Dwayne Casey, man. He's done a great job, and hope he's around for a long time.
Yeah, he's a great guy. So is his wife, Brenna. They always go to like every one of their sons' games. It's awesome.
Yeah,
speaking of the Bucks and the Nets, and me and Coach Casey talked about this as well. Chris Middleton, Spencer Dinwiddie, 2 guys on those teams. I mean, think about all the players the Pistons could still have that they do not. But, Brooklyn has just looked unbeatable so far against a really good Bucks team. And that's why, you look at tonight in Milwaukee, they've got to win that game. If they don't, this series is over. They're not going to win 4 in a row. So is there any way? I mean, you got Giannis out of the combo. You got the Greek Freak. I mentioned Chris Middleton. You got, just some really special players on this Milwaukee Bucks team. Can they find a way to get back in this series, or is it going to be 3-0 Brooklyn and it's lights out?
So I like the Bucks to win tonight, and here's why. I think Coach Bud has a very simple solution. Kyrie and KD, they're going to get theirs. All right, it's a proven fact. But you cannot let guys like Landry Shamet and Blake Griffin, former Piston, you cannot allow these guys to be dunking and getting open. Blake Griffin did a great job defensively the other day on Giannis. You turn him into a jump shooter. That's exactly what the Nets want to do. They want to turn him into a jump shooter. And if he takes to the hole, you want to hack him. Giannis is only shooting 53.5% from the line in the playoffs. That's 15% less average than he was during the regular season. All right. So you want to put Giannis, if he's coming to the hole, you're going to foul him. If not, you're going to make him a jump shooter. The Bucks are also going to need to get some offense from somewhere else. Chris Middleton has been a bit absent, I must say. And so I think that if they're able to do that tonight, they're going to have the home crowd. They don't win tonight, this might be a sweep.
Yeah, well, listen, the way that the series is looking, if they don't win tonight, I think it probably will be a sweep. But, Milwaukee is one of the better teams in the NBA for a reason. They've got one of the best players in recent memory in the NBA, and I think that, like you do, they will get the job done tonight and at least get back in the series down 2-1. All right, before we move on to something that is going to be very difficult to talk about, the situation with Bo Schembechler, I do want to end on this. And, Lawton, I mentioned I'm going to throw the bracket up again. Preseason for me, I picked the Bucks and the Clippers. I'm not switching now. I had the Clippers winning in a 7-game series. So I'm staying with that. And boy, I'm very impressed with the Suns. And obviously you look at the way Brooklyn is playing right now. They've been the favorites most of the year anyway. Where are you at with who is going to claim that Larry Brown trophy that you are so bitter that the Lakers have to give back? The bubble wasn't real. It's not what I'm saying. It's whatever. I'm just kidding. Who do you got winning it all?
I can't see anybody beating the Brooklyn Nets. I think if you're twisting my arm and making a prediction now, I think it's Brooklyn and Utah in the finals, and I think Brooklyn wins easily in 6. Takes them a couple games extra, but I think they run away with it. KD gets his 3rd ring, 3rd finals MVP. Kyrie gets his 2nd ring, and a bunch of guys on that squad are going to get their 1st. With your talking like Blake Griffin and Harden. I mean, they're playing at an elite level, and Harden's hurt. It's just incredible. Steve Nash, Mike D'Antoni have done a great job with that team. And, for all the things that happened this year with the Brooklyn Nets, where you felt like there was just so many distractions, you know what I mean? And off the court distractions. Kyrie wanted to, be doing things, felt like basketball wasn't the most important thing. And I mean, you can go on and on, but they're playing great at the right time and at an elite level like I haven't seen. And if it's a horse race, I like the Brooklyn Nets all day. They're not
All
they're
right.
not known for their defense.
No, but this super team thing drives me nuts. It drove me nuts with LeBron and the Heat, and not 1, not 6, not 7, not 4. Well, they only won a couple. But it did drive me nuts. And obviously the Celtics and Magic and Michael and Isaiah and Larry and Charles, they never would have done the super team thing. But listen, these guys are making tons of money. They want to win the titles. They're going to do whatever it takes. I'm not mad at them for doing what's within the rules, but you would never see players recruiting players in the 70s and 80s. That would never happen, or even the 90s. So it's a little frustrating, but there you go. I got the Nets. Lon's got the Nets over the Jazz. I got the Clips over the Bucks. All right, let's get into a very frustrating situation, especially for me as a Michigan fan. I don't care if I was a Michigan fan or not, but as a Michigan fan, it makes it a little tougher. And for those that don't know, Matt Schembechler and a couple former players. Matt Schembechler is the former stepson who was then adopted by, he was Millie Schembechler, Bo's second wife's kid, and he ended up, Bo Schembechler adopted him. But there was a very strained relationship, very strained, and he was kind of excommunicated. I actually know somebody that knows Matt very well and does not believe what Matt is saying. And you see, I apologize for forgetting his name right now. It's a former wide receiver. And there's been they had this press conference earlier today. Just to kind of put this, there's no really easy way to do this, to put it in a nutshell. Dr. Anderson, who of course we know abused, tons of different athletes. And there's reports that obviously public reports that he was doing physicals for Ann Arbor Public Schools and just, kind of like a Larry Nassar, disgusting human being. But now Matt Schembechler is coming out saying he was abused a couple times. These players said they were abused, and they know of many other abuses. And the worst part about it, if it is true, is that Bo knew, that they're saying that Bo knew. Now, we don't know if it's true because Bo is unfortunately dead and can't defend himself. We don't know if that's the other player. We don't know if these guys are credible. Matt Schembechler has a total axe to grind. He was not, basically was excommunicated later in his life, or for a lot of his life, from him and Bo. But the allegations are obviously very serious. This is a terrible situation. And the one thing I want to say is, Joe Paterno was alive. He didn't really, admit to anything, but there was a lot of documentation that he did know. Larry Nassar, the people of Michigan State, there's documentation that certain people knew, not Tom Izzo or Mark Antonio specifically, but that a lot of, and obviously we've seen a lot of people Michigan State. Yeah, a lot of people knew at Michigan State. I find it hard to believe that people didn't know in Michigan. Obviously, that some people knew, or a lot of people knew. This is just the truth of where I'm at right now. I want to believe that Bo didn't know. This didn't look good today. I found these guys reasonably credible, but they all do have an axe to grind, so that is one frustrating thing. And also, like I said, Bo is not alive. But boy, it would be like they explain this. I'm forgetting the player's name as well. He talked about how Bo knew everything. That Bo was, the captain of the ship. He, much like Paterno, he knew everything. So I do find it hard to believe if this was as rampant as is alleged and as the internal report has shown and all that stuff that has come out so far about Dr. Anderson, who seemed like a Nassar, total disgusting human being. How would Bo not know, Lon? And the question I will throw to you, and then your general thoughts as well. Should, I don't think we're there yet. But let's say more players come out and it's just so obvious that he definitely knew, even though he can't defend himself. Should his name come off Schembechler Hall? Should it come off of everything? Should he be, in a way like Paterno, the statue being brought down, thrown out of the program?
Well, first I want to just say, it's an awful situation, especially for all the victims. They're the ones that are, they've had to live their lives with this stuff for a long time, and whether they came out or not at the time, and it wasn't addressed, which it doesn't seem like it was, then there again, we have another Big Ten school where leadership at the highest level has failed, human beings, college students, collegiate athletes, whatever you want to call it. So that's a shame. I think, if that's the case, and we know that he knew, and there's some proof, and you've got a number of people corroborating and coming out with some sort of evidence, then I think at that point you have to move on, you have to move forward, and you have to give the victims some sort of closure. And I don't think those types of victims, whether they're players or whomever they are, if they're coming back and they're seeing a statue of Bo, that definitely doesn't.
I've taken pictures of it with my dad in front of that statue for years. And I feel bad. I mean, like I said, I'm not 100% there that Bo absolutely unequivocally knew. It is becoming harder to believe if more come out that he didn't, but that has to go down. It has to go down, and his name has to be taken off of Schembechler Hall and all that stuff. Yeah,
it's fascinating to me. Anytime I hear any of these stories from any university or wherever the case is, for the amount of time that the accused were there doing these things, and why I never understand why they were so protected. It's just it's an awful situation. Sad.
Yeah, the two players, by the way, Daniel Kiewatowski and Giovanni Johnson. Giovanni was a receiver from 82 to 86, and he said he was abused 15 times by Anderson during his time at Michigan. And they had nicknames for this guy. And listen, it sounds really bad based on what you heard from the press conference today. But once again, much like the Nassar thing, much like the Paterno thing, you need to get more facts hard facts that come out. Yes, it doesn't look good. I admit that. And I will agree, you heard this today from Johnson right there and Kiewatowski and Schembechler and the lawyers, that the University of Michigan, and I agree with this, they have apologized for what happened to the players and former athletes. They have not taken accountability. Now, Schlessel, the president, and many others, Ward Manuel, they were around when this was happening. So it goes back to the whole Penn State thing, which Law and I talked about many times on 97 the ticket on various shows that I did. Those players weren't there then. Those administrators, some of them were, but very few were when this was happening. More with the Paterno thing and the Nassar thing, and obviously the Schembechler thing, or the allegations about Schembechler. But it doesn't mean you can't take responsibility that your predecessors failed. And a lot of the people that were around during this, the Bo Schembechler era are no longer alive or long since retired. But the school still needs to take and be accountable and not just apologize to the players, but say, we blew it. Our leadership blew it. That I agree with for sure.
Yeah. And that's the sad part is that, these kids are young. I mean, we forget, they're great athletes, but a lot
17,
of them
18 years old.
Yeah, 18 to 22 years old. And when they get into a situation where they're getting a scholarship, I mean, they're put in these really awkward situations. And oh man, it's just a sad situation. It's sad that the accused are protected by these universities. And I mean, we can go on and on talking about this, but yeah, I mean, just to summarize everything, if there's more people that come out and there's evidence, then yes, I think the statue comes down. Schembechler's name has to be removed. I don't know. I don't know what they do about the wins and the 13 Big Ten titles. I don't know what they do about that stuff, because to me, those games really happened. Those players did.
Yeah, nothing. It was listen. If Bo knew, there's nothing that, like how Louisville and other teams have had to give back titles. There was nothing illegal about the players that were playing, but this is just a disgusting thing. If it's true that they knew, you can't take away the Big Ten titles and the Rose Bowl appearances, because there wasn't like a recruiting violation. Obviously, I wish this kind of thing could take that away, but that's not the question. It's about, like the Paterno statue coming down, and obviously Nassar going to prison and all that kind of stuff. You can take down the statue, you can take his name off of Schembechler Hall. You basically excommunicate him and his name from the entire history of the university. And that would be incredibly sad. And I hope it doesn't have to happen. But if it's just obvious and there's more that come forward, kind of like a Harvey Weinstein situation. Yes, not every single story might be true, but some of them are. I mean, if there's 50, 70, 100 players, athletes, former football players that come through, out there and say, Bo definitely knew, then you got to get rid of him. You got to get rid of that iconic statue and his name and all that stuff. And that sucks. And this is one thing I want to say before we get out of here. And I do want to end on a positive note, of course. This is a very tough story to talk about for many different reasons. Yeah. But believe me when I say this, and you know this too, Lon, and I know people watching are going to say, what do you mean? It is disgusting this stuff happened at Penn State, anywhere it's happened. And I think we're going to hear more stories from other universities. But boy, can we see the difference of what social media and the 24-hour news cycle has done. In the 70s, man, you could sweep this stuff under the rug. And because there wasn't the access you have today, Lawton. And boy, thank God. I know that it's bad in some ways and kids and their screens and stuff, but thank God we have social media and we have cameras and we've got more recording devices, which in some ways can be a bad thing, but in ways like this could have been a good thing. and gotten the information out there right away. And this would have gone on with Dr. Anderson or Nasser or whoever else, as much, or Paterno, whatever. Sandusky, obviously, the issue, the disgusting, don't even want to say his name, the former coach, and now, prison, whatever his number is in prison, Sandusky. But boy, things could have been different, Lawton, if we had that stuff back then. But boy, it's frustrating because you could just sweep things under the rug and people didn't have the access.
Right. But I think the university, the trustees and the leadership now, by apologizing, by showing that accountability, admitting that they have found evidence and they were wrong, they can move forward. They can offer some closure to those victims. And that's what's going to need to happen. That they have to do that to move forward.
All right. Well, as I mentioned, I always want to end on a positive note, even when you talk about something tough. Once again, Lawton's going Nets over Jazz, Clips over Bucks. But I want to just give you, another shout out. Brand new job coming up for you in Virginia. Huge raise. You're going to make $1 million a year now. You were making $500,000. So congrats on that. You're one of my best friends. You're one of my favorite people, and you're one of most people I know that know you's favorite people. It wasn't even proper English. That knows you. People that knows you. But no, like a lot of our friends, you're their favorite guy too, because you're just an amazing human being. You've been a lot to me, and I can't wait to work with you in the fall on the high school football game of the week. We've got many more task force to do, but also your great production. Hey, That's Easy, which I am proud to be the director of. Tell everyone about Hey, That's Easy and when the next show is.
Yeah, so we're targeting June 22nd. It's going to be a summer themed show. We've got a lot of great guests. We've got some landscapers coming on, some barbecue folks. We've got the Invisible Dad, who we had on the show last time but couldn't make it. So he's going to be there talking about just a great thing that he's created for the school districts, some of the school districts out here in Metro Detroit. And we want to try to give him some national exposure to maybe inspire someone else to do the same thing in their school district around the country. So those are a few of the topics that we're looking at. And, we're trying to put good news out there, good vibes, show people in these communities that are doing really cool things, good stuff. And so far we're already at show number 6. It's pretty awesome that we've been able to keep this thing going. And again, like I said before, us broadcasting folks, we stay busy. There's always something going on. I've got a new gig with my company and getting ready to move the family. It's a busy time. I'll say that. But
hey, that's easy.
I'm blessed. I'm very blessed to be able to be a part of all of it. And I don't think if I couldn't handle it, I wouldn't be in this position. So you
deserve it all. And I'm going to miss you, being here locally, but obviously our friendship won't change in that sense. And by the way, if you want to check out Hey, That's Easy, it really is a great show. And I love being a part of it. I'm on the show itself sometimes, but I mainly am just in the background directing it. You can go to the Hey, That's Easy Facebook page and check that out. We always play the show on all my various task force platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube. So check all that out there. And the next show's coming up. What was the date again, Lawton?
June 22nd is our next.
June 22nd. I'm sorry, June.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for us. Thanks so much for joining us for the great Lawton Luntz. Any parting shots before we get her out of here?
Watch out what the Lakers do in free agency in the summer.
It's going to be a good time. Hey, I will throw this up there just for you.
That team's going to look a lot different, I tell you that.
I will throw this up there. I still can't believe Kobe's gone, but that is a great picture. That's obviously photoshopped.
Yeah.
But just awesome. But the Lakers are toast, dude. LeBron has been ridiculed up and down. They had the bald spot of Devin Booker. Who was in his bald spot? That meme that's been floating around that was great. I said it to you on our text thread. Everyone was cracking up.
LeBron is definitely, I've been able to appreciate him. I wasn't a big fan of him for a long time. He wasn't on my team, and when he joined my team, I was a little reluctant. I think you remember, but he was able to deliver a title, and that's all us Laker fans want. And unfortunately, this year he is starting to look like he's slowing down a little bit. He's getting injured more often.
Still went to 9 straight NBA finals, so he's not slowing down that much.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think LeBron's legacy will always be that he gave his teams a chance for a championship, whether they won or lost. He got them there, and I think that's one thing that I will always take away from being able to be alive during the time LeBron played. And again, I think he still got
Sorry, breaking news: the Lakers suck. I'm sorry. Finish up there.
But yeah, we lots of changes in the offseason. I'm sure it will be a flurry. It's never a dull moment with LeBron James.
All right, great stuff by you, Lawton. Always an honor. Thanks so much for watching. For the great Lawton Lunts, I'm Dan Leach, the Squatch. We'll see you next time. Be safe out there. I know we're not wearing masks right now. Well, at least some people aren't. But get vaccinated if you're not. Have fun. Live life. And please be safe. We're not totally out of this pandemic yet. But thank God. And watching, by the way, Lawton, watching the Islanders, they're closing out the Coliseum last night, that game with fans. That U.S. national team game against Mexico, the Jazz. It's been so awesome.
Great.
And I know Comerica Park, locally here in Detroit, is at full capacity. They're going to sell out this year, but it's awesome. So if we keep being safe and doing the right things and getting the kids vaccinated, etc., we're going to get back to somewhat close to what the new normal is going to be or what normal used to be. So please keep on that trail.
100%.
All right, that's going to do it. We'll see you next time for Long Lunch. I'm Dan Leach. Believe in the dream. Peace.